How's it going? Today's 31st of May, Friday, and we are taking a look at the market, what kind of opportunities we can find. In today's video, let's take a look at what I think would be important. That should be oil and barrels and energy, overall energy, right? So, yesterday I was taking a look at the reserve of fuel that United States has. So that's the reason, because I think we have used a lot of the reserves. So my reason for my investigation, so to say. I guess I need to find more hobbies. I guess either way. So since half of United States reserves were used, I'm interested to see where they would, if they're replenishing those reserves, if they buy more oil, and where they're getting the fuel from. So that's something that myself I'm interested in. Let's delve deeper into these studios and trying to understand this. But first, let's try to understand how it's possible that there's a name of politics. Politics is not something that I'm interested in. Let's focus on overall hard data, right? So how it's possible that United States buying such a cheap oil? How it's possible? And it's not enough that they're buying it so cheaply that they can even give away 1 million barrels. They can even give that away, even if the reserves have been used. A lot of those reserves, right? That would be Biden to release 1 million barrels of gasoline to reduce prices at the pump ahead of July 4th, right? So, what this person is trying to achieve, I do understand what he's trying to achieve, right? But how it's possible, so where they're getting it, or United States is getting its oil from, and how cheaply, that's right to understand it, right? But first, right, let's delve a little bit deeper into this article and try to understand what's happening. There's no way for me to cover all information that will be important within 10 minutes. There's no way to that. So, if anything, I like to ask questions and trying to understand what's happening. So, I like to touch on a couple of things and everything what's happening in the world if I can. If anything, I can understand one thing for sure. There's no way that people are getting 1 million barrels from nowhere, right? They're getting it from somewhere, right? Statement from a press secretary. There's names there. Let's skip all the names if we can. With Memorial Day weekend and the start of summer driving season around the corner, the uh, Biden Harris administration is taking action to lower gas prices with the sale of 1 million barrels of gasoline from Northeast Gasoline Supply Reserve. This builds on the action by President Biden to lower gas and energy costs. So with inflation and dollar losing its value, right? So it should be a lot harder. So that doesn't make sense. This kind of things that sometimes makes no sense at all, including historical release of strategic petroleum reserves. That's I'm looking to understand it because if you would ask me about the strategy and what people should be doing, they should keep the strategic reserves. They should keep it. So if they or there's so many advisors, right, that more than likely these people are having, right, and those advisors are saying that that's a good idea. So where and how we're gonna replenish strategic reserves, right? How? And the largest ever investment in clean energy. Wow, Kong. I don't know about that. I don't know. I have seen strides and or plans for cleaner energy and how many different vehicles they're gonna be putting on the roads if they can. But other laws are coming into effect where major players are stopping those from places like China or other countries, right, entering U.S. markets, right. So perhaps that will set the time frame and or increase prices of and or slow down free trade of goods coming into effect. But either way, that's not get stuck into all of that, right? As I mentioned, there's very hard to cover everything within 10 minutes, right? Clean energy, perhaps, but it's not with a time frame of 5 or 10 years, perhaps. While congressional Republican fight to preserve tax breaks for big oil at the expense of hardworking families. President Biden in advancing more secure, affordable, and clean energy future to lower utility bills, while record American energy productions help meet our immediate needs. First of all, immediate needs. I don't know about. I hope people are smart of that. So what I'm saying is, perhaps tax breaks for oil companies, all these kind of things. Perhaps those things might help, right? Let's take a look at oil. So since we're looking to uh, reduce strategic petroleum reserve, let's try to understand where this reserve was and where it is right now. Let's take a look at that. I'll touch on where the inventory is as of now, right? At least that's information I would be able to find. I think that entire reserve dipped at half, and more than likely we're going to keep it at half. That only would make sense if they would be looking to keep it at half, just because of alternative energy and all vehicles coming into effect on the roads. We can take a look at strategy. I think it's every second vehicle potentially gonna be electric, so perhaps that's the reasoning. But still a crude oil. If you would ask me, we should consider keeping it higher. But either way, so that's where the reserves are as of now, right? Strategic Petroleum Reserve is the emergency stockpile of petroleum maintained by United States Department of Energy. It's largest publicly known because they might have more, right? That nobody knows about. Emergency supply in the world. It's underground tanks of Louisiana and Texas have capacity for 714 million barrels. The United States started the petroleum reserve in 1975 to mitigate future supply disruptions as a part of international agreement of International Energy Program. After oil supplies were interrupted during the 1973-1974 oil embargo. And I think it's about dipping at half, but slowly increasing, right? So we can touch on then projected GDP and where they're purchasing that oil from very cheaply, right? Quickly, we can touch on vehicles. I think there is a projected to have how many on the roads. I think every second vehicle to be electric, perhaps. Today, Biden and Harris administration announced a latest set of actions aimed to creating convenient, reliable, and made in America electric vehicles. EV charging networks that are great American road trips can electrify. These steps will help United States meet President Biden's ambition goals to confront climate crisis by building a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle chargings along Americans' highway and in communities, and have EV make up at least 50% of new car sales by 2030. Okay, half. Okay, so that's a number that I was looking for. Potentially. So perhaps, but it still doesn't make sense. Okay, let's touch on where potentially U.S. is getting its oil from, right? We're still trying to fit all the information in 10 minutes, right? So we're gonna take a look at the projected GDP growth and how much of that would be oil. I would say a large percentage of that would be oil, and entire supply chain can be very long, right? And potentially one country would extract oil. Potentially taking a look at this graph, another country would refine that oil and would be able to shift that oil. In this case, perhaps even the U.S. No other governments would purchase that oil, right? Since we're touching on projected GDP growth, right, it's not necessarily limited to only oil. Places like Indonesia, they have a lot of nickel. That would be potentially, we're looking to refine it instead of shifting materials, right? So there's a more to this graph and overall GDP, right? But once that has been said, let's progress to the other article where they take a look at who's and how US is purchasing its oil, right? I haven't read this article. I will be reading this article for first time. I'm looking to understand the entire sector, right, and ask questions, right? If reserve is strategic reserve is dipping, by a lot, and seems that 1 million barrels even been sell off from strategic reserve. So it's dipping and they're selling it more even. So I'm looking to understand where they're getting that oil from. So I was taking a look at the projected growth for GDP. So I was taking a look at a lot of things, right? Perhaps electric vehicles have a part to play, projected to be sold by 2030, half of those. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking to understand it, right? As well as let's read this article I will be reading it for the first time. I'm speculating, so it's there, right? This article was published on the 7th of May. That real lower oil puts US in the market to buy for strategic petroleum reserves for now. So let's try to understand how cheaply commodities are available right now, and perhaps a lot of governments are looking for liquidity, right? So a lot of governments are looking for a lot of cash if it can. So perhaps commodities can be sell off very cheaply. 7th of May, a drop in crude oil prices has put US back in the market for replenishing the strategic petroleum reserves after selling off record amount of crude oil the stockpile in 2022. A little more than a month ago, for Department of Energy cancelled the purchase of about 3 million barrels of oil for SPR due to price rise above what had been the government's 79 dollars per barrel target for West Texas Intermediate, which is wanted to buy oil back, right? So I don't know about the prices, right? So I don't think this price that I just said. I don't think it's accurate. I think it's way lower than that. Way lower than that. I think it's single numbers. If you would ask me talking about $80, I think it's way lower. So that's opinion, right? But this article says it's 79, right? On Tuesday, the DOE said it's seeking up to 3.3 million barrels of October delivery, a move that could be cancelled if oil price rise again. The DOE also slightly raised the price at which one to buy the oil back. So they considering and all the negotiating for potentially replenishing this reserve, but I think it will come back to liquidity. Who's selling that oil and for what price? But I think the price is way lower, right? Perhaps if you would ask me, consumer is paying this price. This is how much consumer is paying. But some of those governments who have reduced their reserves by the half, they currently in position where they can negotiate purchasing large amounts of oil for very below the market value, right? And I have taken a look at some of these contracts and how some of these contracts have been structured. I think that's what's really happening, right? But that's my opinion, I guess. This video might be too long and the sharing numbers, so I don't know how accurate some of those numbers are, right? So I'll pick and choose some information, right? And I'll close this video on that. Perhaps we can take a look at how much SPR oil was sold in 2022. In 2022, administration of President of US at the time announced sale of 180 million barrels of oil over 6 months from the reserve. So they decided to sell a lot of the inventory. Why they have done it? Perhaps there's some companies and all governments out there who have decided to purchase oil, and I think US knew that there's gonna be so many opportunities down the line to purchase a lot and all replenish the reserves very cheaply. And what is the price? If they're buying in 300 million barrels, right? Or more or so, right? I think they're getting a very good price, right? At the largest ever SPR sale, its attempt to lower gasoline prices after Russia invaded Ukraine, and DOE also conducted a sale of 38 million barrels in 2022 that has been mandated by Congress, right? So this is what's happening. They're discussing some of the prices. Someone's definitely paying these prices. Someone is. So even here in UK, prices are constantly increasing. I don't know why. I don't know why price is increasing. So someone's paying 80 or whatever, right? But I don't think governments are. Let's close on that. Thanks for watching. See you next one.